Okay, I'll go over some of the changes I made to the boat for the 2025 season. Came up last weekend and I cleaned it. The biggest change that I made was the name of the boat. I went ahead and changed it last week to Nature's Child. That was the name that the family voted on, and we were okay. I was okay with that. And that really wasn't that hard to get the old letters off and get the new ones back on. Let's see, you can see the new motor that we have on there. It's got a scuff at the top. We've been having some difficulty figuring out the correct height to have it when we're putting it back up on the trailer and putting it in its spot, and ended up scuffing up the top. And then the outboard motor lock I had on there was preventing it from releasing to go down, so I had to take that lock off. So we're still working on that. Today I was up here. I was on race committee today, but the winds were too strong, so we didn't actually race. But I'm in the process of breaking in the new Sail Pro 6 horsepower. So I took the boat out to break it in, and it was a very good test today. The winds were steady, like 10 to 12, and then gusting up to 25 or 30. And I took the boat out and went upwind, and I still can't take the motor over half throttle yet, but it did real good. I wasn't checking boat speed, but I think we were probably going 4 or so into the wind, which is sufficient because we would get water splashes if we tried to go any faster. And then this is the 25-inch, so I did notice that it stayed in the water more when the boat was bobbing up and down and was not losing bite. And then what else have we done here? I did change the purchase from a 3-to-1 to a 4-to-1 on the main sheet at the back of the boom. Really wasn't a factor today because I didn't have the sails up. And then I also have the blue line there. That's the new outhaul that I put in to help with boom control this year. I used it last week and the week before when I was out. I still have to figure that out. And then the red line is the outhaul. I need to get some better pulleys or leads to put on the boom, but that's the red line that goes up to the mast and back. So we have the outhaul that's rigged to the front of the cabin there, and then the main sheet release, that cam cleat there is raised up higher, so that should help. And then I thought the Sail Pros only came with the use of an external tank, but I guess I was looking at an older model. This one has an internal tank as well. I haven't really measured how long it takes because I actually haven't even used the internal tank, just trying to keep it clean, I guess. But so far the Tohatsu, it starts real good. It's actually been starting on the second slow pull where I'm just trying to get fuel up in it. So far it's fine, but we probably have maybe 6 hours on it now, or 5 or 6 hours. I'll have to check. I kept up with it. But anyway, I had a good day up here. The wind, even though I didn't actually sail, I was out there for a couple hours and enjoying being out on the water. And I think the boat name turned out real well. I have noticed these seats, I need to replace the front two. You can see where they're staying there. And the back two, I didn't do a good job. I didn't put enough adhesive down. So as the temperatures get warmer, it bubbles up a little bit. So I probably will redo all of those this year. It's not that expensive. And then my son and his friends came up last week, and they took the bimini down, and I didn't feel like putting it up today, so I left the bimini down. It was cloudy when I started going out. For the last few hours, the sun's been out. But that's it. Nature's Child's done well so far.
were at most 1.5 feet, but heading into the wind, I would get sprayed. Back in the cockpit sometimes. The water is still cold here, even though the temperature is warming up. The tiller clutch was very useful today. The tiller could be locked into place and help steer the boat in the windy conditions. It could only hold a general course, and eventually the wind would push it downwind. But for minutes at a time it would work, and he could go grab a drink and take breaks. Working across the wind and waves, the boat speed would pick up, but the wind was pushing hard, and we had to keep a hard tiller angle to help the tiller clutch hold a reasonable course. Only weighs about 2,500 pounds. You could really feel the waves and wind pushing the boat around today. Luckily, the winds did not have the chance to build up larger waves. It was too much wind to sail, but it was good experience being out in the boat in the higher winds. Even though these are small lake waves, when trying to turn through the wind, the boat turned slower than I liked. The motor was only at half throttle, but I'm still glad I had the 6 horsepower and not the 4. can see the gust of wind coming. It pushed harder than the tiller clutch could handle and pushed us downwind. I had to come and get the tiller. At this point, I am in the main channel heading south right into the strong wind. The boat was hard to turn when motoring directly into the wind. Next weekend is the local club's first big regatta for the year. Nature's Child will be participating in the Catalina 22 Silver class, which is one below the Gold class. Hopefully I will have crew with me, but I will have fun regardless.